So if you know one thing about me is that 2024 was an abysmal reading year, and I'm curious if I shot myself in the foot, or if I could generally correct that. So what I decided to do is I have a shelf on Goodreads with all of my galleys from that gallery that I still have yet to read. So I decided to sort that shelf on most ratings, I believe. I believe that's what it's called. And then I picked the 5 books of this list that had an average rating above a 3.5, so I know they were well liked, that had the highest amount of ratings. So, you know, most popular but also still liked, because there was one book that came out in 2024 that had a really low average rating but had really high amount of ratings. I was like, that's not exactly what I'm looking for, because yes, it was read a lot, but like everybody hated it, so how is that gonna correct my mistakes? So yeah, these are 5 2024 releases that I had a gallery up to that gallery, so I could have read in 2024, but I didn't. But the general public loves them, so did I shoot myself in the foot by not reading them? Or do I also just not like them? It's a good thing that I not added that onto my abysmal year last year. That's the premise of this video basically. So what I will be reading is I'm gonna go from the lowest amount of ratings to the highest, at least at the time I checked. Of course, it could have changed by the time this is published, but the lowest of these top 5 is Blue Sisters by Coco and Mellors, which has a total amount of 122,059 ratings and an average rating of a 4, like on the dot, which is impressive. I know I've heard a lot of things about this book, so it definitely doesn't surprise me. It is literary, so does make me a bit nervous, because that's not typically what I read, but you know, I requested it, so it's my own fault. But you know, last year was the year of like not letting books intimidate me anymore, so like we're getting fully out of the comfort zone this year. Then above that, we have the Rom-Commers by Katherine, which has a total of 122,791 ratings and an average of 4.11. This is a romance novel, and I'm surprised that this ended up so high, because even though I know Katherine is a very popular author and I've heard a lot of great things about it, I feel like the Rom-Commers I've seen a lot of mixed reviews for on my feed, but I am still very curious to give this a read. And then another one I was really surprised for, that's A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle, Jensen, which has a total of 123,154 ratings and an average of 3.95. Again, this is one that I've mainly seen bad reviews for, so I was actually very shocked that this showed up so highly, but I am still excited to read it. I feel like it sounds fun, so maybe I might not love it, but I feel like I at least will have a good time with it, which might sound naive to say, because I am not really the biggest fan of The Witch Kingdom and its sequel, which I know is extremely popular by the same author. I felt, you know, the Witch Kingdom I kind of felt meh about, and then the sequel I really didn't like, so I don't know if I'm like right in being hopeful, despite having only seen negative reviews for it. But you know, it has almost a 4 for an average rating, which is really high, so maybe I'm just following the one people. Then next we have Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. It has 151,595 ratings, with an average of 4.02. And this honestly also surprised, because I have seen this floating around a bit, but not too much. But also I don't read a whole lot of mystery thrillers, so I don't follow a lot of like mystery thriller like booktubers or like reviewers just in general. So this is the one I've seen the least on my feed, so it was a bit of a surprise that it was that high up. But you know, I am still very excited to read this. That's why I requested it. And then the number 1 book, which did not surprise me at all, is The Wedding People by Alison, Espach, with 262,300 ratings and a 4.17 average. This again leans a bit more literary, but I saw a lot of people read this for the Goodreads Choice Awards around that time, because it was nominated and it won, I believe. So therefore, I know that this was really popular, and I kind of expected to show up, but also I've only heard like amazing things about it, so I am very excited to read it as well, from reviewers that don't typically read a lot more literary leaning books also picked this up and loved it, so that also has made me very excited to get into that. And yeah, those are the 5 books I will be reading for this video. I don't know the order yet, we'll figure that out as you go. I'm definitely not reading them in the order that I just talked to you about them, but I'm gonna see what I'll be in the mood for. Okay, I just washed my hair, that's why it's wet. I apologize, I look awful, I know. But I thought I'd update you because last night I got to the 25% mark of Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth, I believe. I could be wrong, I apologize. A lot's going on right now in my life, so my memory isn't the best. But I did read a quarter of this book yesterday, and I actually am having such a fun time with this. This is a mystery thriller book following three girls who, when they were kids, were put in this foster home, and everyone constantly tells them just how lucky they were and how amazing this woman was that took care of them, but in reality they actually suffered quite a lot while they were under this woman's care. And now it's like years and years later, the adults, the plot of land has been sold, and it's now like works are being done in there, and doing that a skeleton was discovered. So our three protagonists are called in by the police to basically see if they were witnesses to something, see if they know anything about this dead body that was buried there. And yeah, that's the basic premise of this book. And 25% ill. I have to say there is like two timelines. The present, where of course all of this is happening, and then also the past, where at the point where I'm at, just like all three of those girls had just gotten under the care of this woman, just like one by one. And we've learned about like their childhood, I guess, and how they got to be under the care of this woman. And so far I feel like we've done much more in our past storyline than in the present, but I am very intrigued to keep reading. I think our three main characters are very interesting, and just from what we've already gotten from the past, it is very clear just how emotionally abusive this woman was. I don't know if physical abuse is also gonna play into things, but at this point, like, she's very emotionally abusive. But like I said, the like third girl has just recently been placed, so I feel like it's gonna ramp up more. But it is wild and kind of like scary, but not like horror scary, but just like scary as in, you know, that this is real life, just how this woman is able to manipulate everyone into thinking like she's this kind, caring woman, and then how quickly she can switch at times with these girls, because there are times where she is a very kind, caring woman to these girls, but that's not always. And that juxtaposition is really well written, and it's that plus just the characterization of our three protagonists. I really like them. All three of them are very different, but you can definitely see how they developed this kind of sisterhood over the years already, even without any of the shit they went through, just because their personality, like, they clash, but they also work well together. So yeah, I'm also very excited to kind of like delve more into like the actual mystery of this, because like I said, in the present timeline we haven't really done much yet, but they are about to like leave to go back to this town where they used to like live and go talk to the police. So I'm presuming we're gonna start delving into things, but I am very intrigued so far. It's also a very quick read so far, so I don't know, I'll update you once I have more to say, but like right now I'm really liking it, which is a shock because mystery thrillers are like very hit or miss for me. So the fact that I'm already just like really into this quickly, I have high hopes. I'm halfway through Darling Girls, and I don't have really from thoughts about it yet. I am really enjoying it. I'm reading it very quickly, but I feel like I still don't really fully have a grasp on what's going on, what we're doing. But I'm having a good time, so there's that. There's one thing I am, besides obviously, you know, the mystery of the body, there is one thing I'm curious about, because in this book, we, like I said, we get present, past, but we also get these little bits of this person at a therapist's office, and just, I thought at first it was one of our two protagonists, but from the backstory we're getting from that character, I am not sure, and now I'm curious as to who that is. I have theories, but I'm not sure. That's the thing that's keeping me most intrigued right now. And how does that play into all of the other things going on? I don't know. Hi, I finished Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. I was supposed to give you an update at like the 3/4 mark again, but I gotta be honest, this book had me hooked, so I don't want to put it down. I feel like in my last update I talked to you about at the halfway mark, I was still kind of, I was very intrigued, I was enjoying the book, but I was still trying to kind of like get a grasp of it all. As soon as I stopped talking to you and began reading again, things picked up and it got wild. I mean, it didn't get wild. Don't expect like a crazy like twisty ride, but there are a lot of like kind of like smaller reveals in this that are just so well done and genuinely have my jaw dropped. Like I was just like, fuck. And generally I was on the edge of my seat throughout like that latter half because it was just so well done. I, by the way, gave this 4 stars. I don't think this book is like a very like big splashy read, which from what I've seen on reviews on Goodreads and Storygraph, it's like a big complaint for people is that they just expected more from it. It is just very regular. I mean, it does very well discusses abuse in my opinion, especially emotionally abuse, and how that affects people long term, and then also just like the general trauma that a lot of foster kids go through from just being ripped away from their homes for whatever reason and being put into these unfamiliar situations. And also I think at the same time it does a great job at kind of showing the weaknesses within the system and like the faults within the system, because it is a system with lots of faults, while also not demonizing the foster system in general. Like if that makes sense, like it doesn't demonize every foster parent who ever exists. Like they're not all like abusive shitheads, but this person was. And there should be better things in place to prevent stuff like that from happening, if that makes sense. I started this whole thing by saying that it's not a big splashy book. Like it's not like there's constantly things happening or whatever. It is just like I said in Edward's Health Update, we get just a lot of the time of these girls with this abusive foster mom, and we do know the entire time that a body has been found on premises, and there is this kind of like mystery to it to find out who that body is, what happened, and stuff like that. But it is very much kind of like an undercurrent throughout the story. The abuse is like the main focus of the book, and how that affected or 3 protagonists as well in adulthood still. And I thought that was also really interestingly written to kind of see and pick up on these little things that definitely are a result of the abuse that they faced, and how for all 3 of them it was very different. I thought it was just really well done, because obviously they're 3 very different people as well, so of course they're gonna react to this differently. But I thought the abuse towards them was also directed differently based on the person, so therefore also like the consequences, I guess, and the long-term effects were different. And I liked that there was like a clear follow to a line in that was just really well done. And overall, I do, like I said, towards the end it does get a bit more like twisty, because we just have some reveals of things going on. And you know what, I was just along for the ride, so maybe that was also why I was so shocked by all of them. I didn't necessarily see any of them coming, so there's that. Like I said, it was very much while I was reading this book just like along for the ride, instead of like trying to figure out what was happening, because it just wasn't kind of like the kind of book that was ever at the forefront. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I started The Wedding People, and I was gonna update you at the 25% mark like I typically do, but I didn't really have much to say, so now I'm halfway through the book and I still don't have a whole lot to say, but I thought I do have some things to chat about, so let's do that. So let's start with a bit of a synopsis. The Wedding People follows our main character, and I'm so bad with names, I don't remember her name right now, but she recently has gotten divorced, and since then she's kind of like spiraled into a bit of a depression. And at the very start of this novel, she just like very impromptu decides to go on like a little vacation to this hotel that she's like seaside that she's always wanted to go on vacation by the sea, but like her partner never wanted that. So she's like, this is perfect because she wants to commit suicide. She is just done with life. And when she gets to the hotel, she very quickly discovers that she's the only guest at this entire hotel that is not there for a wedding. And she also very quickly comes across the bride, who learns about her plans to commit suicide and is very much against that. I want to like prevent it happening because I cannot ruin her perfect wedding week, because yes, it's a whole week of wedding events leading up to the wedding. And yeah, they kind of strike up an unlikely friendship, and honestly it gets messy. That's honestly my main thoughts on this book, like halfway through. Like nothing like big has happened, nothing splashy, there's like no real drama, but there's like these characters, all of them are not the most likable people. So even though there's definitely people worse than others, and you know, there's just some questionable morals going around people. They're just not the most perfect people, you know. They're very prone to making mistakes. So you can already confer from that explanation maybe how this could get messy without even like any big events happening, because it definitely is messy. But I also just somewhere along this ride got super invested in this book. I don't know when it exactly happened. Like I started reading this and I was having a good time, but it's not like I was like loving it. And then I reached the 50% mark and I had to put it down because I had to go to sleep. And I just realized I like just didn't want to. I just became so invested. And I don't know, I'm having a blast. I genuinely already get why this one is so popular and like has the highest gotten, even from people who don't typically read literary fiction, because that's also not my genre, and I'm having a blast. So yeah, I'm very excited to continue reading it. Hi, so I have finished The Wedding People and I didn't give this a 4-star. I really enjoyed this. I feel like the second half definitely was way more misbeat than the first half. I mean, when I last talked to you, I was still enjoying the book, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed this the entire way through, but I feel like especially that first quarter is very focused on our main character's kind of like depression and how she got to the point where she is now mentally, and therefore it could feel a bit like heavy to read at times. And I feel like the rest of the book got more lighthearted. It's not the right word, but also yes, lighthearted, because this book definitely deals with its heavy topics of just kind of being stuck in life, about like expectations that are put on you a little bit, and just like living life with kind of like the rules, if that makes sense. Like this is what I'm supposed to want, this is what I'm supposed to do, and it is about kind of breaking free from that in like very different ways. Obviously we focus Phoebe the most, and her journey with those themes is like the most obvious, but I feel like it is very present in kind of all of these characters. Like I feel like every single character we meet in this book has hit rock bottom in some way or another, and maybe not like in this present moment, and they're still like and they could be like in their way of clawing out of it, or they go towards rock bottom in this book. So it is serious in that sense, but I feel like it also, this entire book kind of looks at things like, you know what, all of these expectations that we have on our lives and stuff, and how we're supposed to live and how we're supposed to be happy, those are kind of ridiculous, and therefore it kind of ends up looking at things with a bit of a ridiculous lens, and the overall tone of the book can feel a bit more lighthearted than especially I expected. I laughed so much while reading this book, and I overall had a really fun time, which is not really what I was expecting from it. And therefore I also get the hype from this book, even from people who don't typically read this genre like me, because it feels, I'm not gonna say different, because I have not read enough like literary leading books to like discuss on that, but it does feel different from what my typical expectations of the genre are, if that makes sense. I am a quarter of the way through the Rom-Commers by Katherine, and honestly this close to the end of it, which I don't want to be telling you, but it's the truth. Let me first give you a quick synopsis of what this book is about. So basically, in this book we have this like very famous screenwriter named Charlie, I believe, and he has kind of made a deal with like executives, I guess, that like his mafia movie that he's been wanting to make for like ages and ages will begin production if he first writes and makes his rom-com. The only problem is that the script he wrote is dog shit, and that's where our main character comes in, who is also a screenwriter, and she basically gets hired to come and fix the script because it's a mess, apparently. And that's just like the general setup for this book. And I have heard so many great things about this book, but mainly Katherine Center as an author, so I was very excited to read this for this video. And obviously like it is very popular, so it's the whole concept of the video, but I don't get it so far. Like I'm having such a bad time with this. Like I said, I'm so close to the end of nothing, and the only reason I'm not is just because of the hype behind it basically, and I want to see if there is something to this that I'm just not seeing yet that make people like this so much. But currently, yikes. I really don't like either of our characters because they're just, I honestly, this book is making me wonder if Katherine Center has ever interacted with another human before, because they just don't read like real people at all. I really don't like our main character, and I already forgot it. It's Emma, that's her name. I don't like her. I feel like I don't know, she just gets on my nerves, and I can't fully pinpoint why. I have pinpointed though that she's very inconsistently written. There's moments where she is like this very badass main character who kind of just like doesn't take anybody's shit, and the other scene she's like the most pathetic human you have ever met, and it's so inconsistently written, and maybe that's what's getting on my nerves so much. But I just cannot stand her so far, so I'm hoping that maybe that is something that progresses, because that's not really a complaint I've seen for this book. A complaint I have seen for this book is that the guy is awful. Like, he's such an asshole. And the fact that I've seen that pop up in reviews does not make me hopeful that that's gonna get better, but he is such a prick, like so bad, and also so privileged. Like, and the main character tries to call him out, and he's like, "La, I'm still white," and I'm like, "No." Not everyone can just give up everything in their life to screenwrite. Not everyone can do that. That does not make them a lesser screenwriter or like less passionate about screenwriting. That's false. That's just like an argument they had, and there's like more shit going on with him where I'm just like, you're such an asshole. And I genuinely I can't fathom rooting for him as a romantic hero. But again, a lot of people also love this, so maybe I'm wrong. I want to be proven wrong, but I really not like it so far. I have been putting off doing this update the entire evening. Honestly, I finished the Rom-Commers just before dinner. 1 star. There you go. That's all I want to say, really, because I get wild about this forever. The only reason why I didn't update you before is because I knew that if I was gonna talk about it and like what I thought of it, there was no way I could continue on with it. But I felt like I had to commit for the video, and also once I get like 50% into a book, it's really difficult for me to DNF. I don't know, there's something about me that can't do it. But honestly, even at like 80 something percent in this book, I wanted to throw it across the room. The only reason I didn't is because I read it on my iPad, and my iPad has been abused enough. I hated this so much, and I don't even know how to properly convey those feelings to you, because I haven't been this angry at a main character in so long. Like, I hate this bitch so much. I genuinely think she is the devil. She is evil. I don't care. And like, Katherine Central must have been possessed or something, because there is no way you can have a character do all of that shit, say all of that shit, be that horrible of a human, and then have them go through 0 consequence of their action. In fact, other characters apologize to her. Oh, I'm getting angry all over again. This is not good for my mental health. But I hated her so much. I do feel like when I last talked to you about like the 25% mark, that hatred wasn't that strong. I know, but that's because I felt like she flip-flopped a lot between being like the most egotistical person you've ever met and the most insecure, like whiny person you've ever met, and that flip-flop just felt very inconsistent to me, and I didn't like that, and I thought it was just like an issue with writing. But no. It's a fatal character flaw. She just is the worst, and I hated her so much. And then Charlie, the love interest, I also wasn't a big fan of. I thought he was just an incompetent man-child. That's the best way to describe him. I also felt like he was very misogynistic, very elitist, and instead of addressing those behaviors, author just introduced a side character that was a pig. Arguably way worse than Charlie when it comes to the misogyny and the elitism, but like, that was supposed to be kind of like, see, he's not that bad. But that does like make you not misogynistic, not elitist. If there's someone worse at those things than you still are those things. I don't know, it pissed me off. And also, I don't know if it is just because I hated these characters so much, but there was 0 chemistry. I do think they definitely deserve each other. Go make each other miserable. I don't give a fuck. It's a good they ended up together, so like nobody else has to deal with their bullshit. But I felt like there was 0 romantic chemistry, which was kind of ironic because the whole plot of this book is that Emma goes to help write Charlie's rom-com, because Charlie just, the way he is written it, there's like basically no romance in it, but like the chemistry between characters and stuff is all off, and there just was no romantic things in the rom-com. It was just missing, and I felt that exact same way about this book. I truly, it's baffling to me how this is supposed to be a romance, because there was just like nothing there, and it just, yeah. Hi, so long time no see. I apologize, although you wouldn't technically know, but I did read the entirety of Blue Sisters without talking to you. I apologize, but the thing is, I got to the 25% weight mark, didn't really have a lot to say. Nothing really. Got to the 50% weight mark, still not a whole lot to say. Got to the 75% mark, and by that point, like, the book was basically done, so I didn't really see a point updating you about my thoughts on it. So here we are. Let's just begin with kind of like a bit of a synopsis. This is a literary fiction book about three sisters who all have lived the life of very total different personalities but are super close. And this book starts like literally on the 1 year anniversary of their fourth sister's death, as all of three of their lives are kind of unraveling, and they're kind of spiraling. That's it. And you know, I've seen much love for this book and this author, also kind of like in general. I am still interested in reading this author's other book, but this just wasn't really my thing. I gave it 2 stars, which I hate because I can see why people love this book. I do. I just did not care. Like, I think all of this book has the motions of being a really good book. Like, it goes through the motions. It has all of the different pillars. It's just that it never at any point made me care, got me invested, and I just kept reading this book hoping for some kind of spark, some connection, and I just never got it. But you know, I read a lot of reviews for this book to kind of uncover what I was feeling with it, and honestly my issue is just that I never found that point of connection with this book, and I don't know what that is or why that is. It just never really clicked for me. But I can definitely see if you're one of those people for which it does, how this could be like a very emotionally hard-hitting book, because it's definitely that, and it's a great story about like sisters and everything, but like, I don't know, it just, I did not care. That's the thing. Excuse the angle, but it was like all comfy cozy reading and I just don't want to get up. But I am a quarter of the way through A Fate in Blood by Danielle Jensen, which is the last book for this video and also the longest. I did not think this through, but I am flying through this. I'm honestly having a great time. This is a romantasy book following Freya, who is like a child of a god. It's based on Norse mythology as well, should say that. She's like a child of a god basically, which gives her like magical abilities, but she's always been told to like hide that from herself, like from the rest of the world. No one can know about it because it would be dangerous. And she, at the start of this book, is married to this guy who's like the town's hero, but he's also a fucking asshole. I don't know how to explain this because I feel like this world isn't explained well enough, but this guy arrives at this time, was like the leader, I guess, but who is also like conquering other parts of the world. Like I said, this really isn't explained well, so I apologize. But he comes to town and her husband basically tells this guy like, hey, my wife is actually like secretly like a child of the gods, to like think that will betray her or anything. I don't know, but then like something happens and she ends up like exposing her powers and everything, to which this guy is like, hey, you're like the woman from the prophecy that happened that foretold that I'm gonna be king, so we're to be married now. Like I said, terrible explanation, I apologize. But yeah, so he gets married to her and like breaks off the marriage. Like he basically has the power to divorce her from her previous husband and then marries her instead. And he appoints his son to be kind of like a bodyguard, but also to train her to be more of a warrior, because like part of the reason why she's foretold to like make him king basically is that she is like good in battle or something. I don't know, I don't get it. So of course she also like needs to get like battling skills, and he thinks a son is the best way for her to get that. And then of course this is a romance between her and the son, because what else would it be? And yeah, I apologize for that shit synopsis, but that generally is my only complaint with this book so far, that I feel like world building is just adds zero. Like I know nothing about this world, I have no clue what's going on. And I feel a bit lost, and maybe it's my lack of knowledge of Norse mythology that's also keeping me confused. I don't know, but I just feel like the author could have done a bit more world building because I'm a tad bit lost. As you can probably tell from explanation for the synopsis. But I am having a really good time. I'm actually, like I said, I'm flying through this so far. It just, I don't know, I'm along for the ride, I'm having fun. This is a book that I've heard very mixed things about. I feel like I used to only hear negative things about this since its release, but then ever since I started filming this video, I've only heard great things about this book. So I generally don't know what's up with it, but so far I'm having a fun time and we'll see how it goes. So I have reached the halfway mark of this book, and I'm starting to feel the same way about this as I did with The Bridge Kingdom, which is another book by this author that I read a couple of years ago now. And that's that I'm having a fun time, and there's definitely elements to it that I like, but overall I'm not super invested in everything that's going on. There's just, I don't know, I'm not being pulled in, I'm not connecting to the characters. I don't really fully see the chemistry between our two leads yet. The plot is just not fully gripping. So overall, I also just don't think this is one that's gonna be like super memorable. So that kind of sucks. I think Danielle Jensen just might not be the author for me because it is just like the second book of hers that I've tried that I've had the same issues with. Like I said, it's generally, I feel the exact same about this as I did with The Bridge Kingdom. And then a sequel to The Bridge Kingdom I thought was just bad. So I think this might just be my last foray with Danielle Jensen because I just don't think she's the author for me, which is fine. But I'm having like a good enough time to continue reading this and finish it. But I think it's just gonna be like a 3-star. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so I just finished A Fading in Blood, and what I told you last night is pretty accurate. I feel like I don't really have that much more to add to it. So it's a 3-star as predicted. I don't think I'll be continuing on with the series, or because the way it ended is like a tiny bit cliffhangery. I'm a little bit intrigued. So like maybe if like the reviews are out of this world great, I might check it out maybe, but like right now I don't have any inklings to do so. This is also the only book that's like the start of a series. All of the rest were like standalones in this video. This was the first book in a series. And yeah, it just, I feel fine with it. I do have to say that at the midway point, I was a bit kind of like getting bored of it. And I do definitely think just like taking a break by like, you know, going to sleep and like doing some other things and continuing fresh this morning did help me a little bit. I had favor for this book, where I was enjoying my time just a tad bit more in that second half. It's not necessarily because like better things are happening, I think, but just because I don't know, I was consuming way too much of this book a little time for how little I cared of it, if that makes sense. But I do have to say this was the largest book in this video, and I think I read it the quickest. Like, it was such a quick read and I flew through it. It was very easy to read. I do think the world building is still very lacking. Like, there's so many things that I completely do not understand about this world and like its magic, because it just never explained. And I don't know if that's just me not knowing enough about Norse mythology, or if that is just a flaw in this author's writing, but I thought it was way too underdeveloped, like underexplained the world. And then overall, I thought the story was a fun time, but I just didn't fully get attached to it. As I mentioned before, I went into a whole explanation about that before already. So yeah, those are my thoughts on A Fading in Blood. And that brings us to the end of this video. So basically the setup for this, I think, was if I missed out on reading any of these books last year because I had so little 5 stars last year. I guess I know. I mean, I'm glad that I got through some of these books now, partially to understand kind of like the hype behind them, and also partially because I enjoyed them, like Darling Girls and The Wedding People. I really enjoyed, and I would highly recommend you go read them if you haven't read them yet. So I'm definitely very glad I read them, but it wouldn't have brought up my 5 stars because both were 4s. And you know, the Rom-Commers, I wish I never read that. That is the one thing. But when it comes to Blue Sisters and A Fading in Blood, even though I didn't end up enjoying those books very much, I am glad I read those, because these are books that I, over the past year, have seen pop up a lot on my feed and I was curious about anyway. So therefore, it's nice to have them ticked off of my TBR list. So I'm still glad I made this video. And honestly, besides the rom-commers, I generally understand the hype behind all of these books. But those were my thoughts on the books I read in this video. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This was a bit of a weird concept, but I have fun. And hopefully I'll see you next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? I should have played it cool instead